Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror and sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today, I will be welcoming a legendary director who is still going strong after 40 plus years in the industry, Kevin Connor, the man who directed dinosaur classics like The Land That Time Forgot, The People That Time Forgot. He did horror classics like From Beyond the Grave, Motel Hell, very funny movie. He did the Frankenstein miniseries. He did The House Where Evil Dwells, and many others, and I'm having him on the show today to talk about all of that. It's amazing that the man just will not retire. He will keep going, making movies. I admire that in a director, especially a legendary one, because hanging it up sometimes is not cool. You got to keep on going until you can't do it anymore, and that's what I admire in directors. So yeah, here is my interview with Kevin Connor.
Hey, Tommy, mate, how you doing?
I am great. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Oh, it's such an honor. Thank you for taking the time today.
Oh, not at all. It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, well, I'll bumble through a few things and whatever I can remember.
Yeah. So going back in time, do you remember the first movie you saw that made you want to become a filmmaker?
Yes, there were two, really. One was The Quiet Man, which I'm still trying to get a movie, not a remake, but I've got a great script about it. But the other one was a film called Odette Churchill, PC. And I'll tell you why. I didn't see the film, but I saw it being made. And I lived out in the countryside outside London during the war, and they built an American hospital for the D-Day landings for the wounded to come back to and so on. And we used to go down there as kids and get sweets and bananas off the soldiers and airmen and so on. And anyway, it dissolved to 1950 or something like that. And there's a big light one night coming from this area where this camp had been. You know, we used to, it got become derelict and all the rest of it. And so anyway, we cycled down there, and they were making a movie, and they'd changed this camp, the remains of this camp, into Auschwitz at night. And there were all these, Germans in uniform and dogs and people shuffling along, going into Auschwitz. And it was just unbelievable magic. And a film set at night is always magic anyway.
Right.
Yeah, so that was the first one I actually saw. Actually, I think was at Errol Flynn, Robin Hood thing. But the one I really enjoyed and really cemented it all was seeing this Odette Churchill film being made and seeing The Quiet Man. Anyway, that's I think that's what it was.
The Quiet Man, that's a great movie. It's one of the rare times that you see a different side of John Wayne.
Well, I think it's one of his best movies and Ford's best movies. Slightly different, obviously not a Western and so on and so forth. But I've had this script for about 10 years and been trying to get it made. And it's about a film, the film company that comes to this little town of Kong in the west coast of Ireland, and about the two kids that are extras in it as well. And it's their story, and you see John Wayne and Ford and so on, and you reenact some of the scenes. I don't lift them from the film. I will hopefully reenact them. Anyway, it's a dream. But I'm still trying on that one.
Well, I hope you make it.
Well, you'll be surprised how many people have not heard of John Ford and less of John Wayne these days. It's sad, and that's people in the business,
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that a lot of the younger generations are not in tune with the classics.
No. Anyway,
were you influenced by any directors?
No, not particularly, but I did. I loved John Huston films because, especially the film noir. You know, those film noir period of his, and a lot of those black and white. Because it was well, Technicolor was coming in, but it was a lot of black and white films, and so. But I would put certainly John Ford and Huston, the ones I used to go out of my way to watch. But in London, when I started working, there were a lot of foreign film cinemas, you know. So you could see Japanese films, and you could see Italian films, and French films and German films. You know, a whole selection, especially Italian films. Of course, the Italian film industry has kind of disappeared, sadly, from those days. You know, from Tusika and that genre, those guys.
Yeah. What would you say are your favorite movies of all time?
Oh, well, certainly, I always put, I mean, there's obviously several, but The Wages of Fear, one of my favorite, and The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, Man Who Would Be King. I mean, there's quite a few, Brighton Rock, a lot of those early, there's several Ealing studio films, Hue and Cry, and you know, those that came out of there at the time.
Mm-hmm.
There's quite a few, but that's a sort of smattering of some of my favorite ones.
Nice. So how did you get into the film industry?
Well, I always I was lucky. I always I knew what I wanted to do, like 13, 14, and around that period, just the magic of it. And when I got to school-leaving age, 1953, dare I say, I wrote to every film company in the London telephone directory that had the word photographic or film or studio in it. There was about 120 letters I wrote out, you know, applying to get in the camera department, because I thought they looked great to be on one of those cranes, and that looked kind of really magic and romantic and stuff. Anyway, the early 50s in England was just post-war, and there weren't many studios open. There's only Pinewood and Ealing studios, and all the American studios were there, Fox and MGM, but they weren't making anything, just empty studios.
Mm-hmm.
But I wrote to them all. I got about 20 replies, all negative, and so I went back to school. And literally within a week of going back to school, I got a phone call. My mum got a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
A documentary company up in London, Soho, were looking for an assistant editor, a trainee assistant editor in the cutting room. So I thought, hey, there's a foot in the door. And so I didn't have much of a clue about editing and, you know, how the system, how films were made. You know, there's those days there was no handbook. So I grabbed it, and I went up and I got the job up in Soho in the editing rooms, and I stayed in the editing rooms all the next 20 years. So that's how that came about.
Mm-hmm. You edited a couple films for Richard Attenborough, Oh What a Lovely War, and Young Winston. What was your working relationship like with him?
Very good. He was great. He was a terrific guy, and yes, he did give me my break. I was working on a film that he was in and producing, because he and his partner Brian Forbes were quite prolific at that period, and they what's it called, A Seance on a Wet Afternoon, and Dickie was the lead in it, and the producer on the film. So he would come in the cutting rooms from time to time, and we would chat and become friendly. But I was an assistant editor. I wasn't the editor on that film, the assistant. And so this could be boring, but this is how I break to editing. And the film had been shot and cut. And I was in the cutting room at 9 o'clock one morning. The phone rings. It's Attenborough, and he said, Kevin, we've got is Derek the editor there? I said, unfortunately, no, he's at the dentist. He wasn't in there. He said, well, we got to cut a minute and a half out of the movie, for the distributors. Have you got any ideas? And I said, Yeah, funny now, I do. Yeah, it's great. Could you? He didn't even ask me what it was. He said, "We'll do it, and then show me. Could you show me in a couple of days' time?" I said, "I can show you it in half an hour," because I knew exactly where it was, and luck would have it. Wound down the reel, snip, snip, and booked the theatre, got him over, and that was it. So you dissolve. I think it was a year later. I was at Twickenham doing the sound on the Charge of the Light Brigade, Tony Richardson. The phone rings and it's Attenborough. Kevin, he said, "I want you to cut my first film that I'm going to direct. I'm coming over to see you now." And he lived in Richmond, which was very near Twickenham. He came right over into the cutting room, and he went through the whole script of "Oh, What a Lovely War," singing all the songs and dancing, you know, and so we just sat there and watched him, you know, and I couldn't believe it, that, you know, and he was offering me a break. So that's how that came about. Those little things in life, you know, that sort of stroke of luck that pay off later. So that's I got my. I know you didn't ask me that question, but
it's okay.
It's really interesting how things pan out in this business. You know, it's just luck a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, but to work with him, yeah, no, he was terrific and a great friend and so on. And unfortunately, I couldn't do the Bridge Too Far, and for domestic reasons, and I couldn't do it. And then I started directing after that. And then he did Gandhi and so on, and you know, so we sort of parted company. Sadly, I didn't cut Gandhi, which would have been great. But he was an absolute delight to work for. Really, you know, just one of the best.
Oh, that's great. Your first movie as a director was From Beyond the Grave. So how did that come about?
Oh, well, yes, I've been editing for 5 or 6 years, I think, and sort of getting a bit restless, and it kind of wasn't enough. And so I thought, I would go at producing, you know. So with two friends, I optioned 12 short stories for horror genres, but they were modern day horror situations, and they weren't period pieces. They were happening on the underground or happening in real life, as it were. And we optioned and we wrote 4 each, half-hour adapted, 4 half-hour scripts to make a TV. That was the idea, make a TV series, a horror for television. But no, I couldn't get anywhere with that. And my agent got them and landed them on Milton Subotsky's desk. And Milton read them and liked them. He called up, and I had a meeting with him. And he said, "I'm going to take 4 of these short stories, and we're going to make a compilation film. And we'll make a link story." He said, "I'll write a link story, and we'll get Peter Cushing in and so on. And you can direct." And I thought, "Well, I've never directed." I mean, "Don't worry," he said, "editors make good directors. And I trust you and so on. And I'll surround you with some great, good technicians," which he did. I mean, I had Alan Hume and Maurice Carter, the production designer, really first-class people. And that was the early 70s. And the cast he put together, the leads in each segment. I mean, David Warner and Maggie Leighton, a wonderful actress from the 30s and 40s, and Donald Pleasance, Angela Pleasance, and
Leslie Ann Down.
Yeah, just really, really, I was very lucky. But, you know, I'd been on film sets. You know, when you're editing, you go on this film set all the time, and as you cut, you talk to directors and so on. And funnily enough, you learn more from bad directors than you do from good directors in a strange kind of way. So that's how that one came about. Yeah, Milton gave me my break, and they liked what I did, and then they gave me the next one, the Edgar Rice Burroughs pieces.
Were you nervous at all on that movie?
Yes, nervous because I do my homework. I knew what to do homework-wise, but it was dealing with actors of that caliber, because I wasn't trained in. I wasn't a theatre director. I wasn't trained in the theatre. The only contact with actors is when you walk on a set and chat to them, or when you do the ADR or something, later on and whatever. But they were all great, and Peter Cushing was lovely, and they weren't difficult. They weren't jerks, They made me feel comfortable and so on. And the script, it was what it was. It wasn't difficult to sort out what kind of character they were. So I was nervous dealing with the actors more than the technicians, because that was kind of more my world. And the trick is you get the best and you listen and learn.
Mm-hmm. Then you did my personal favorite, The Land That Time Forgot.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorites, because it was a biggish, an adventure movie. It wasn't a horror genre type of thing, because most directors get a break doing horror genre films. That's one of the routes into directing.
Mm-hmm.
But here, it was a lovely adventure with the First World War submarines and saws and all that stuff. Very, very small, limited budget for those days, and of course, right on the verge of pre-CGI. So a lot of the, they were all hand puppets. The dinosaurs and things were all hand puppets. So it was a bit, you look at it today and it's a bit creaky, but it was fun. We worked out with the Digivision background plates and so on, which made the quality a lot better and so on. It was a good fun piece to do, and dear old Doug McClure, my first encounter with American actors, and he was certainly he was great to watch in fight scenes and things like that, and they really those action kind of scenes. He knew where the camera was and where how to throw the punch and all this kind of stuff. I learned a lot from him, actually.
Yeah, my grandmother, she loved Doug McClure, and and I was lucky enough to interview his daughter Tawny last year. Lovely lady.
Oh yes, yeah. I never met her.
Oh.
But I mean, he spoke of her, and he was a good guy. Good guy.
Yeah, isn't it true that before he was cast, Stuart Whitman was cast?
That's right. And that's right. And then AIP, who were the backers, distributors, thought he wasn't big enough name, so they wanted somebody else. And so they wanted Doug McClure. But I thought I was going to get the other guy from the Virginian. I forget his name now. I didn't recognize Doug in terms of, because I didn't really watch TV westerns series in England. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we got Doug, and so that was good. He was a great guy.
Yeah. How was the dinosaurs? Did they give you any trouble, like the shark in Jaws gave Spielberg trouble?
No. The full-size ones are always tricky. Like I think there's a Diplodocus or something that attacks the submarine, comes up out of the water, and it's a full-size sorbo, that sort of sponge material, so it kind of flops about a bit. It's very hard to make it other than what it is. But it took a little while, but no, we got it in the end, and there was that, and there was a couple of just the heads of things we used and so on. But no, by and large, the big shots were hand puppets,
Mm-hmm.
So they're about 3 foot. They're quite big ones, so about 2 or 3 feet high.
Yeah, it was long before CGI.
Yes, I'm afraid so. We just, another 5 years, and we were, when we were making, I think we were making that. They were beginning on Star Wars. That was starting to happen, or that was starting So, it wasn't. We were just slightly a bit too late. And also, the producers I had, they treated them as children's films. Oh, they're kids' films. They won't make much money.
Mm-hmm.
They've already saw the light of the fact that in the future you make films for kids and adults. And combine the two. Raiders of the Lost Ark and so on. So everybody can enjoy it. But the producers I had kind of a bit short-sighted in as much that they didn't see the future in kids films, Saturday morning films, as they called them. Sadly, but that's kind of why I moved on after 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I used to see this movie on TBS Superstation on the weekends when I was a kid. They would play it back to back with Don Coscarelli's The Beastmaster.
Yes. I think they both MGM films at the end. MGM's library, I think.
Yeah. I never saw the sequel. I should see that one. Yeah, the People That Time Forgot.
The People That Time Forgot. Yes, so we had Patrick Wayne in that, funny enough. And Doug was in it a little bit, not a lot. We bumped him off actually in that. Bumped off Doug. Yeah, that was good. It wasn't very close to the book, which pissed me off a bit because if you're going to use Edgar Rice Burroughs and his stories, I think you should at least get 60% closer to the original. But again, the money and the producers wanted otherwise. The budget wasn't $1 million. They were really low budgets, and again, old trick photography and stuff like that, but still no CGI and things and techniques.
Yeah, you worked with Doug McClure again on At the Earth's Core.
Yes, yeah. Doug and Peter Cushing.
Mm-hmm.
And Christopher Lee. And no, Christopher Lee wasn't. Christopher Lee, we did Arabian Adventure. Sorry, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, the pair of them. They work very well together. And Carolyn Munro, gorgeous Carolyn Munro.
Oh yeah, what was she like to work with?
Lovely. Oh, absolutely. Again, totally. There she is in this skimpy outfit, and sitting on the set, and all the sort of technicians and the lads, electricians, sort of trundling past and setting, doing a setup or whatever. She said, "Oh, everybody's so friendly. I love this unit." And so, but she would sit there and do her knitting in this sort of skimpy costume, but totally sort of not oblivious, but totally happy to be. Wouldn't go back to the dressing room or anything. She wanted to stay on the set, and that was great.
Yeah.
She was a delight.
Yeah, I've been trying to get her on the podcast. I know a couple of people who have interviewed her and said she's very delightful.
But yes. Yeah, the film should have done better, but again, I don't know, who knows.
Yeah.
What? And of course, it's a small market at the time, even though Edgar Rice Burroughs was famous for Tarzan and things. His other stories hadn't done. There wasn't that pre-publicity, if you like.
Mm-hmm.
We did the three of them. We did the John Carter books, but they were suddenly the estate wanted a lot of money for them, which was kind of out of our realm,
Mm-hmm.
We moved on. We wrote our own, wrote our own stories.
Yeah. Warlords of the Deep, you gave an early role to John Ratzenberger, who later got known for Cheers.
That's right, yeah. John came in. He was literally, the next day, on his way to the airport to go back to the States. And our casting person said, "You've got to see this guy. So he brought him down. And, the minute he walked in the door, this is a character. And that was it. He didn't have to open his mouth. And you just knew that he's got a great look about him and so on. And No, and then I did 4 or 5 movies with him after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when we came, in the States, yeah.
And this one was a original screenplay, though.
That's right. That's right. I think we had a basic idea, and who was it? I can't remember his name now. Who did the screenplay now? But yeah, it was an original idea and everything. Yeah, no, good again, a good cast. And we went to the Mediterranean to shoot it, so that's always fun.
Yeah. So American International was keeping you employed in the 70s.
That's right. And well, I think we sort of partnered up with EMI as well.
Yeah.
You got they came on board with AIP. Sam Markoff. He was a good salesman, showman.
EMI, they were so groundbreaking. That's another name you don't hear much these days from the younger industry. EMI, they were so groundbreaking in putting independent film together.
That's right. Well, they did De Niro film.
The Deer Hunter.
Vietnam. Yeah. I mean, wonderful. Then they made a couple of. Then they moved to America, didn't they? They came to LA and they made a messenger film which bombed, and then the new management took over EMI because it was a music company basically,
right?
Entertainment music company, and they said, "I think we're going to get out of movies." So that was the end of that.
They did a merger with Universal.
Was it? Yes. Yeah. They disappeared.
And they distributed.
Those around it were English guys, and I knew them all, but sadly, that went the way of a lot of companies.
And they distributed a lot of HBO films too.
Yes, yeah.
Now, Motel Hell, was that your first American movie?
Yes, that's right. At the end of the 70s, it was England was in a bit of a state, and the industry wasn't. We had a good run, and I thought, I've got to have a go at America. It's there, and you've got to. If I don't have a go, I regret not having a crack at it. So we came over early in 1980, and I only had 2 contacts when I got here, and for a couple of months I was, running out of money. I didn't have a lot of money, and 2 or 3 months I had about $200 left, and then I'd left a tape of, in those days, a VHS of some of my stuff with an agent, but he didn't. One of the guys I had made contact with, he was an agent, but he didn't want to take me on. Anyway, had my tape in a couple of weeks, and nothing was happening. So I called up, said, "Oh, can I have my tapes back?" And his secretary said, "Oh yeah, they'll be in the office here. Just come and collect them anytime. Just walk in." So down I go. As I walk in to get my tapes, this guy's office door opened. He came out to refresh his coffee cup or something. And, "Oh, Kevin, what's happening? What's going on?" And I said, "Well, nothing. Come in here," he said. "I'm going to get you a job." So he took me in, sat me down, and he picked up the phone. He calls another agent and agency, and "Have you got anything for a young director? Anything on the books?" And this woman said, "Oh, yeah, we actually were looking for someone to do a horror film. Has he done a horror film?" And I said, "Yeah, I've done a horror film." Great, we'll send him over. So, and I go over to see this agent in Century City, and it turns out to be this motel, a script called Motel Hell for UA, and would I like to read it? They wanted to see my horror film, so I had to go and get a copy of From Beyond the Grave. And in those days, you had to get the whole film to carry all these reels.
Right.
It was a married print. So I took it up to UA and showed it to these 2 young guys who had written the script. And their dad was an executive at UA, Herb Jaffe, lovely guy. And the 2 boys were very friendly and good. They saw my movie, loved it, but I'd like to read the script. Off I went to read it that afternoon, and I tell you, the first shot was nighttime, long shot, Motel Hell, light Motel Hell, the O flashes in red neon. Cut inside motel room, a fat woman is in bed with a dildo and a pig. I thought, oh Jesus, I've come all this way to make this kind of crap. I just threw it on the floor, and the wife, a girlfriend at the time, said, I think we better read it just in case, we haven't got much money. So I read it, and it had something going for it once you got into it. But the opening shot, I thought, I don't know, it's so juvenile. Anyway, I said, I asked them, suggested to the guys, would they make it more of a black, dark comedy? Take out all this teenage stuff, because it's really silly. And it's not horror. It's just silly. Make the dialogue clever and make it dark and play it straight. Have the actors just play it absolutely straight, and don't take the piss out of take the mickey out of the material. And they did, and we worked together, and we came up with what you see. So that's how that one came about. Again, if I hadn't walked in that room at that moment, and that guy came out of the room, his office, it would never have happened. So it's just luck again,
Yeah, just luck. Last year, I interviewed Nancy Parsons' daughter, Elizabeth, and
oh yes, yeah.
She told me she was on the set the day that you filmed the scene where Nancy's head is underground and her feet are sticking out of that hole, and she said that her mother was very uncomfortable doing that scene.
Yes, I bet you were. They all were, because well, we had to dig holes in the ground, and we're out in the middle of nowhere, and of course there's snakes and all sorts of things, creeping around at night time. And because Ratzenberg, he was also down one of those holes with his head, and with the others alongside, and he would get a stick and then tickle the others, and then disrupt the whole set, because they were screaming and trying to get out because they thought there was a snake or something. It was Ratzenberger playing around. But no, it was. I'm sure she was. But Nancy was really. She's a terrific actress.
Oh,
she was a terrific actress at the time.
She was great. Yeah.
Yeah, and she knew she hit it right away. I mean, you didn't have to get good actors, and you don't have to, you don't have to do much. Let them do their thing, and she was spot on. So was Rory, of course. He was another delight.
Yeah, Rory Calhoun. He was a Western legend.
Yeah, he certainly was. In his day, he was quite a boy, but he'd calmed down a bit by the time I worked with him, and lovely, nice man.
Oh, that's great. What was Nina Axelrod like?
Yeah, she was good, and she was the girlfriend of Robert, one of the writers, and she was terrific. And again, a lovely crew and good actors who just threw themselves into the material and enjoyed it. Just enjoy the. It was a lot of fun to make, as you can imagine. Got a bit smelly in the final fight there in the smoke room with all the pigs and things, because they were real carcasses and heads and things and so on. I tell you, we shot it April, May or something. It was a bit whiffy in there after a few hours with all the lights and so on and so forth. But it was fun.
What about Wolfman Jack?
Wolfman, yeah, he was in the opening sequence. Didn't have much of him really. It was a small cameo role anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't quite come off, but we kind of, again, he was a delight. But he wasn't an actor, but he was a personality. So he was good fun. Yeah, I mean, I've really been very, very lucky with actors, and never had any sort of major problems. Or arguments. We always get on well.
So did MGM then offer you the house where evil dwells?
No, that really came through Doug, because Doug was in that, and he was great friends with the producer, Cohen, I forget his first name, and the writer. And so Doug introduced me to him, so it really, I think MGM or UA.
Martin Cohen,
very good, that's right, Martin Cohen, yeah. He was a big friend of Doug, and Doug recommended me to direct it, so I met Martin and we all got on, and that's how we got, that's how that came about. Through Doug. It wasn't directly from MGM, I don't think.
Eddie Albert's son is in it?
Yes, another sad, he shouldn't have left us so early. Very, very good man.
Mm-hmm. You directed a couple episodes of the short-lived series Wizards and Warriors.
Yes, yeah. One of the lead actors, Duncan Regehr, a friend of mine actually. He had been in Goliath Awaits, I think. We all got on well, and he's Canadian. His wife was English, and we became friends. So when he got that series, I think he recommended me to the producers, and I got to do a couple of 1 or 2 episodes. I can't remember.
I think it was 2.
It was 2, was it? Yes, yeah. They were at Warner's. Did them at Warner Brothers. Clive Rebel. Good cast.
Yeah, I interviewed Walter Olkowitz, and he told me that he had a good time working with Jeff Conaway, but he thought that he was wrong for the part.
Yes, he was. That's right, Jeff Conaway. Yes, that's another sad story, isn't it? So when you shoot these series, of course, you inherit the cast. Because they're part of the ensemble. So you only cast the day players, as it were. But he was very malleable and fine and so on. There was never any trouble at all. But it might well have been. He was a bit, I don't know, called him modern, I suppose. But I guess I think I know what Walter means. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You did the classic miniseries North and South Book 2.
Yep, yeah, that was a lovely break. That was a great break. Again, just being in the right place at the right time, and managed to. Well, I did get a couple of phone calls. I'd done some Remington Seals, and the scripts are really good on Remington Seals, and sometimes, you get really lucky with the speed you have to go to make those things. You get lucky with a setup or a scene, and I think with Pierce Brosnan, we've done a chase scene through the LA River and through those tunnels, with the cats drawn on them. Mm-hmm. And it kind of worked out very well, and it was all backlit, and the water was splashing up, and really sort of a fun. It kind of worked, and so I did get a call from the producer of the Pazian on North and South, whether he was recommended to me, but he said he'd seen the Remington Seal, and would I be interested in doing it, and so on and so forth. And David Wolper was the sort of executive on it. And I got I landed that. That was really that was a nice break. But it sort of pushed me into big miniseries, and I supplemented a lot of 4-hour minis and 6-hour ones. I got out of episodic because they put you in boxes. You can if you do episodic television, you can't do movies of the week. If you do movies of the week, you can't do miniseries, or you can't do feature films. You get put in boxes. But anyway, I managed to climb out of it and got that miniseries. But then I got offered sort of miniseries all over the place, all over the world, and I didn't even work in Hollywood for about 6 or 7 years. All the stuff was in where did I go? Greece and to big adventures. It's good.
You worked with a lot of great...
I got sidetracked away from a feature career, but,
Yeah. You worked with a lot of great actors in it, though. Patrick Swayze, who we lost.
Yeah.
David Carradine.
Leslie Ann Down, who, of course, was in From Beyond the Grave.
Mm-hmm. Jimmy Stewart,
yeah. Olivia de Havilland. My God, I mean, can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Ever be on the same set with Jimmy Stewart?
Were you starstruck?
Absolutely. I mean, such a pro, such a gentleman, the studio system. You start the shot and cut. He stands still. He doesn't move. He looks over at me, and he's waiting for me to say yes or no or go again. And I'd like to go again, sir, if you don't mind. And I give him a reason or a little whatever. Not much, mind you. What can I tell Jimmy Stewart? He says, oh, no problem. So back it goes again. Back to the start mode. Again, never leaves the set. They're right there. They don't rush off and make phone calls and absolutely professional, word perfect. And he was. You could just see the old school training and the way they behaved on sets and the discipline. He moved it until I'd said we're going to go again. Then you'd go back to the number one mark and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Libby de Havilland, Gene Simmons, of course, another great.
Clu Gulager.
Who?
Clu Gulager. He was on The Virginian with Doug McClure.
Oh yes, yeah. Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, he's a great actor. Yes, he was. Yeah, good people on that.
Yeah, he's still alive. He's still working.
Yes. What did I see? I saw his name somewhere.
He was in that new Tarantino movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
That's right. When I saw him in the credits, I thought, I've worked with him. Yeah.
15 years ago, you did the miniseries for Frankenstein.
Yes, yeah, in Slovakia, and that was a good script because it was really very close to the book, as much as you can be, because it does kind of ramble all over the place, especially the last few chapters where he's being chased all over Europe and stuff. But no, we had some great production in Slovakia. Worked in this old Russian studio there, and a lot of them were the technicians, local technicians, old guys who'd worked for the Russians, mainly doing when Russia occupied Slovakia, doing documentaries and propaganda films and so on. But they were phenomenal technicians, especially in the art department and so on. And they really, the set dressing and was just terrific. I had an American art production designer, but the actual making of the props and the dress, the set dressing and so on was really superb. And of course, the local had local camera crew, American cameraman, lovely, excellent cameraman, DP. That was a really good cast. Again, really good cast.
Donald Sutherland, William Hurt.
Hurt, yeah. Magic. Those guys. When they turn it on, it's just you feel the hair on the back of your neck, you crawl because they've got it and they hit it right on the nail. He was just phenomenal.
The very underrated Ian McNeice.
Yes, lovely Ian. I've done a couple of films with Ian. Yes. Well, he's done his lovely series in Cornwall in England. He's got a recurring role. But he was. I knew him from the past. So as you go along, and I'd like to use a lot of actors that I've worked with before, like a repertory company, because then you know what you're going to get. You know your friends as soon as you walk on the set, and so on and so forth. And it's like having a rep company.
Oh yeah, Hitchcock did that. Clint Eastwood does that. A lot of directors.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
Mm-hmm. So you're still out there making films. Do you ever think about retiring?
Not really. I mean, I think the industry retires you, really, because,
True.
You get too old, or they think you're too old, and so on. And, I understand. That's the way it is, Because when I got my break directing, I was 30-something. 33 or something like that. And there's quite a bit of opposition. Oh, he's too young to cut a musical. He hasn't got the experience to, cut a big expensive movie like this. And but Attenborough was really good. He stuck out for me and insisted, and I've got the job. So I understand. There's a 2 or 3 decades of new guys coming up behind you, pushing you out the top. So that's all right. That's life. That's the way it goes. But no, I keep trying, and I guess there comes a day when you say, I don't know. But at the moment, I've got 2 or 3 projects on the go that I hope to go. But it just keeps your brain going as well, and there's such good TV these days. Cable TV is just phenomenal. The standard, the photography, the acting, and writing, especially the writing, is just really good, and directing, of course. But anyway, it's good stuff.
What do you think about independent film having so much trouble being distributed these days?
Yeah, well, that's the problem I'm having, because the stuff I've got are relatively low budget, and they're independent films. And the studios are making these huge blockbuster things, which visually and technically are absolutely amazing. But after a while, I mean, you're watching a comic strip, and it loses, I don't know, the magic of why I wanted to get in the film industry. Of that the creating something out of nothing, almost like watching how they turned this old American hospital in England into Auschwitz, and just transported you. It's magic.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular genre of film you haven't made yet that you want to make?
Yeah, I'd like to make a really good a spy thriller or a psychological thriller.
Mm-hmm.
I did do a screenplay a couple of years ago on one, adapted a book, which is set in Louisiana, which is a really dark, dangerous piece. We've been trying to get that going, but it's about a $12 million that range.
Yeah.
Piece, but it's a good piece, I think. But it's really as hard as it's ever been to get movies off the ground.
Yeah, I've been hearing that from a lot of people. It's really sad. I worry about the future of film.
Well, it's tough. The competition for I know a young editor who's absolutely mad keen about the industry, and been trying to he edits, but he just can't get into the feature world or into the TV, into interesting, material. And he's thinking of packing it in and thinking of another career, because everybody can shoot on an iPhone and edit the film on your laptop and put the music to it and so on. It's kind of it's a competition. They used to say, every waiter or every cab driver's got a script he's writing and so on.
Yeah.
Every cab driver, they're all directors, and everybody wants to be a director, as well. But, anyway, it's but that's the way. It's one way is terrific that you can make your own movies and relatively simply or easily, which you couldn't do in my day. It had to be an 8mm camera and 16mm camera, and every spool of film was precious because it cost money. But now you can squirt off as much as you like, and anyway, that's progress.
Mm-hmm. Do you have an upcoming film that you want to plug?
Well, I'm trying to do this. I've got three I'm plugging, but the main one, I'm fingers crossed, I might be getting off the ground next year. It's called Connemara Days, and it's about the Quiet Man, the making of the Quiet Man in the village of Kong in Ireland. And I think I told you earlier, it's about two kids. There are extras. When you watch the film, there are two kids that are extras.
Yeah.
And the writer, a friend of mine in England, built a script around it. He's a great John Ford, John Wayne fan as well. So together we've been, over the years, been trying to get this going, but as I said, not many people know John Wayne or John Ford or ever heard of the Quiet Man. It's sad in one way, but that's my number one. It's a relatively cheaper production, and we got to trying to attract a cast, but all the agents want to know, have you got the money, when you're going to got distribution and so on. So it's very hard to attach anybody to it. The other one is a thing called a missionary position, and it's not what you think, but it's about a bit like Romancing the Stone. It's an African adventure. Two city kids go out as missionaries, and they have to pretend to be married because they get the job as the missionary position job, and because they confront all the terrible things that are happening to wildlife in Africa and so on, and opens up their eyes to what's going on and so on. So it's been nice, a big romantic adventure.
It's kind of like a matinee serial.
Got a tickety throat, and I didn't bring any water with me.
It's kind of like a matinee serial.
Yes, yeah, it's really it's a fun piece.
Nice. Well, Kevin, I'm glad you're out there still making films, even in this crazy world that we're living in right now. And I appreciate.
Oh, I should tell you,
Go ahead.
I did a commentary for was it Land That Time Forgot, I think, and the guy that interviewed me, Courtney, said he is doing a prequel to The Land That Time Forgot.
Oh.
He's got permission from the state, Edgar Rice Burroughs' estate, to do a prequel, and he's working on it. I said, oh, I'd love to take a look at that when you're done, and see if it'd be really fun to make that one,
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard back from him. I think he's still working on it.
Wow, that would be great to see that too.
Yeah, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kevin, I appreciate you coming on today, and your stories are wonderful. I loved talking to you.
I hope I was a little bit of interest, Tommy, and thank you for the good questions, and that you. It's amazing the number of calls and things I get from people who remember those early films and so on. It just seems like yesterday I made them. So they were good fun and nice, good crews, and everybody loved making them. It weren't hard work in terms of the actual physical production.
Well, I'll keep an eye out for the new ones, and I hope you have a good night over there, sir.
Well, thank you, Tommy, and good luck with your program, and hopefully speak to you again one day.
Thank you so much, sir. You have a great day.
And you.
Great night.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it. Kevin Connor. Ain't he a cool dude? Very nice man. Great stories, great films, adventurous films, entertaining films. All around, great filmmaker, and he's still out there slugging them out, and I admire that. If you like this video, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, add me as a friend on Facebook, join my Tommy Kovac comedian page on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and all that fun stuff. Well, that's all the time we have this week on Splat from the Past. Until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying, there's no shame in living in the past. because the present sucks. Later, dudes.